Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at Aggro Forest. Aggro Forest has been reasonably popular in tournaments and on ladder, mainly because it deals with D-shift quite well and many other decks, as you're about to see. This deck is pretty stock standard, although I am only running 2 Insect Lord instead of 3, and I'm running 3 Beetle Warrior instead of 2, mainly for the added aggression and the fact that I only have 2 Insect Lords. Overall, this deck is extremely cheap. The Insect Lords are the only kind of expensive card, really. You are also running double Fairy Driver, which is, I suppose, reasonable. It's only 16k vials, which is good. Oh, sorry, 1.6k vials. Anyway, 7,000 on that, and then the rest is all bronze and silvers, which are pretty stock standard and easy to obtain. Basically, you flood the board, you deal damage, and that's it. There's nothing else to say about this deck. You can set up Impra turns, you can set up Fairy Driver turns, you can just straight out flood and deal with your opponent with Brambles. This card has a lot of different variations. I mean, you can swap out a few different things here and there. Personally, this is something that I'm quite happy with and plays quite well, so we'll get right in the games and check it out. So, not all these games are always going to be perfect, but these are always very quick, these Forest games. So, our first matchup is against Dragon. We are going second, which is a little bit of a disadvantage as a Forest player. You really want to be going first when you're playing any aggressive class, and Forest in particular really likes to go first. Lucky for us, our opponent is Dragon, meaning first turn plays are basically unheard of. And being aggressive really helps when you're in a Dragon matchup, so really we're in a quite nice spot. We do get to see Mr. Dragon. Mr. Dragon is a sad man, dealing all of our life away. But Goblin and Airbound Barrage is a nice way to just clean that up, limit our damage, limit our board so we don't take any more than we need to. So our opponent continues to throw stuff. They do put the Dragoon Scyther down. Pretty much just ignore that and flood the board a bit. I mean, if they do decide to trade into one of these 1-drops, we'll just hit them with an Insect Lord. Not really anything impressive. And another Mr. Dragon, so there's 2 already, and they decided to hit the 2-2, which makes things a little more interesting for me. Especially when I can just throw that Insect Lord with the Twiddledee to clear that 2-2 really nicely. And ping some more damage with an Evolve. Like I said, we're playing an aggro class. Basically, be aggressive, go face, play your Evolves, avoid trading with the board as much as you can, which is what Insect Lord actually does quite well. Well, I was a pretty big, no, I wouldn't say hater, but I was a pretty big laughing stock with Insect Lord just because I don't see it as being that great of a card. It's definitely a great clear and it's definitely solid in that regard, but outside of that, I just don't see it being as good. It's definitely not the clutch card, it's definitely more of a support card, which makes perfect sense. Dragon player concedes, realizing they can't deal with my board, so quite happy. So as I mentioned, this video will probably be reasonably quick because this is an aggro deck, and aggro deck videos tend to be a fair bit shorter than normal videos. Although I think the last game we're going to look at today will be a little slower, so who knows. We start off with a pretty good hand. Brambles is great against another Forest player, and Kitten is actually pretty good to set up on turn 1, especially going first. You can just throw it down. Goblin is better though. Definitely better to play Goblin. Kitten was just kind of, you know, if you have a 1-drop, you use it. There's no point holding it off till later unless you have something else to play, like Goblin. Brambles set up, 1 damage to their face, stops them from easily trading into this. Well, at the same time, we can pretty much set up for double Fairy into Kitten, or if we draw into another 1-drop, another option for that, so really happy. And we actually get Insect Lord, okay. Not the best thing, but we'll work with it. We'll go for the Kitten play, we'll deal some more damage. Actually, we may trade, just because we can ping with this Brambles here. Probably the right choice, honestly. So ideally, Twiddledee Twiddledum would be the best card to get. If we couldn't get that, I suppose we can work with this turn. Beetle Warrior? Definitely not that good. Do decide to use the Elf Song just so I can throw the Insect Lord down so that I can remove the 2-2. Not the finest thing to do, but when you're playing aggressively and you're playing against another reasonably aggressive class, you really want to be able to have that board state. Especially in a situation like this where it isn't easy to remove. I mean, at most they're removing one card, which is not good when I've got a full board. Plus, we do have another 2 Elf Songs in our deck, so that gives us more chances, and Beetle Warrior itself is actually pretty reasonable, even though we aren't going to really get to use it yet. Ooh, Furious Elder Weedman, yes, 1 extra damage, that's what we want. So we spread out our damage a little bit, meaning even if they clear something, we're going to keep sticking things to the board that have good attack power. Getting them down to 6, which means if we get this Beetle Warrior to go off, so if they clear most of this, we could have a potential lethal, although this ward is really going to screw me over quite hard. And I don't like that at all. So trying to think of what the best thing I could possibly draw would probably be. And Fairy Driver takes the cake by a mile. I mean, Fairy Driver into double Fairy, that's 4 damage Storm. We've got 7 on board total now, and with an evolve, we can evolve the Fairy Driver and trade it straight into the 6/4. Thanks to Fairy Driver's effect being automatic and not relying on it being on board, the trade works out really nicely. So the opponent didn't stand a chance with that one. And our last but not least matchup, Shadow. Shadow can give me a little bit of a run for my money just because they have so many low cost drops that have really good health totals, making it very effective for them to trade with my board. Although double Kitten into Insect Lord, not the best play, definitely wanted to get rid of that. So, Brambles makes up for it. I mean, 2 fairies, can't go wrong with that. Being able to clear stuff, also pretty good. And we get another Kitten again, so do throw a Kitten to the board. Like I said, if you don't have another 1-drop, Kitten is still a good 1/1. It also baited out the zombie party. That's pretty good trade, honestly. A 2-drop 3 damage removal on a 1/1 follower. Do decide to push out the Brambles for those fairies. Mainly so I can plan out a couple of turns, I think.
This song's for you.
Pure-Hearted Singer. Okay, I'll take it. And decide to throw Kitten. Insect Lord, probably. Deals nicely with the 1/2. Gets us a couple things on board. Allows next turn to be above average if we play double fairy into Elf Song. Although I will be spending a couple of fairies, but I will also get them back, so could be worse. And this is a reanimate Shadow reversing, so not too surprising there. Double Elf Song, now that becomes interesting. Being able to use all these Elf Songs to gain massive advantage, especially when we can evolve this Kitten to deal 4 damage, feels really, really good. I mean, what could be the worst thing to happen? They clear my board and I cry in a corner? Afraid that's not happening today. So Fairy Driver has a chance to deal 2 damage, or with an evolve 4 damage next turn. Since they are trading really well here, probably not the best turn to do that though. I kind of feel like the Emperor is going to be way better, especially since I can evolve this 2/2 fairy anyway into a 4/4 and go for 4 more damage. So with Emperor next turn, plus a couple of fairies, we'll actually leave them on 1. That's as long as they don't clear this. If they clear the Emperor, I am in some serious, serious trouble here. And knowing my luck, that's exactly what I'll do. And Mr. Full Moon. Okay. Full Moon, gonna completely cripple my Emperor. Luckily, we have a second one, why not? So I evolved this Emperor under the assumption that Full Moon, when it lowers its cost to 1, is more of a debuff and not a permanent status effect. Did never take any notice of that. I haven't played against too many Full Moons and never really experimented much with it myself, so I mean, I didn't realize that the evolve wouldn't add any stats. Kind of unfortunate. Although Emperor does get to keep its health, which is good. I mean, 6 health makes it harder to trade into. So in some ways it was okay. Alright, Fairy Driver into a Fairy. I debated a little while on whether to go with Elf Song or Fairy on this play. Decided to take the Elf Song, mainly in case I draw it into my second Fairy Driver, because that would guarantee me a really decent lethal. Whereas Elf Song itself gave me the exact same value that a Fairy would have that turn. The only advantage a Fairy would have had was putting something on board, but Elf Song also gave me 2 fairies, so just a little bit better. So now we're in a little bit of trouble. I mean, that Zeus is going to be really difficult to remove. The only card in our deck that could save us, Natural Tutor. Perfect. I mean, Water Fairy into Tutor, still having enough stats to use Ivy Spell Bomb. And with everything on board and having played 2 cards, that's going to be the damage we need for victory. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you'll find the deck list in the description below if you want to check this out. This deck is reasonably solid, I would say. Definitely good on ladder at the moment if you're looking for something to quickly play the games and not really, you know, wait around too long. I mean, I went through 5 games in about 20 minutes and I had 3 really solid games, honestly, with only the one misplay won that Emperor, in my opinion. I mean, the rest of my plays seemed to be on point and did quite well, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.